I think another good thing to go ahead and block in now would be these handlebars. That's another pretty prominent feature, and it'll help us with the size and proportion of everything. So to do that, I've brought in a couple of our reference images over here. I think maybe I will give these things a name. You can select an object here in the 3D view and hit F2 to rename objects. So I'll call this headlight, and I'll select this. I'll hit F2 and I'll call this headlight lens. There we go. So we have these cleaned up in the outliner. Now to begin, I think I'm going to move this cursor back to the center of the grid with Shift S1. And then I think what I want to do is use a path the same way we did with the frame or the chassis of the bike. I think I want to use a path for the handlebars. So let's just press Shift A, curve, path. And this time, instead of moving and scaling in object mode, let's try it in edit mode and see how we do. I think it's going to be helpful because we're going to mirror this over. And when we mirror an object using the modifier, we need the origin of the object in the center of the grid. So let's just tab into edit mode and make sure everything's selected by hitting the A key. And let's just scale it down. And then I will go to the front view here. And let's just hit G and move it up into here. Scale it down a bit, hit the R key. So I just want to try and get it so it fits on this area right here. All right, so we have it in that view, but if we tumble around, we really don't have it in any other view. So what let's do is go back to our quad view, Control-Alt-Q, and now we can kind of zoom in with each of these windows with the period key. Here we go. And let's try and get these in place. So it looks like we need to come up here a bit. I'll hit the period key again here. And let's turn it in the side view. Hit the R key, G key maybe, something like that. Now let's just take this end point and begin extruding for this curve here and here. So I'll hit E and I'm going to move it in the front view just a bit. And then I'll hit G and move it in the side view a hair. And then let's hit E and pull this out like this. Hit G and pull this out like this. So these aren't going to be exact. It kind of looks like we're going to need to come out a little beyond the reference image here, but that's okay. Let's get them generally in place. I'm going to turn it like this now. Maybe move one of these like this. Now let's grab this and move this up. So you can see we're just kind of fighting against each other between these two views, but we can do this. We can get it. So I'm going to move that down like that. Here over like this. And here we go. So now I'm going to go ahead and extend it on down like this. And then hit this one and move it out like this. So you see what I mean? When we get one in place, the other's a bit off, and that's okay. That's to be expected. So let me kind of move these around and see what we have. I'll tab back into object mode and see what we think. Looking at these, it appears that this is a little bit more bent back than I have it here, and that's okay. So let's come over here, and I'm going to begin just taking these and moving these like this. We get a little bit more of a bend out of that. All right, let's hit the tab key to go to object mode. I'll press Control-Alt-Q, and let's see what we have so far. Yeah, I think we're getting there. Now, while we're working on this, let's go ahead and add a mirror modifier. I think it'll help to see it on the other side. So we'll come over here, add a mirror, and it comes out pretty well, mainly because if we hit the N key, the rotation is still zeros because we've been doing this in edit mode and not in object mode. All right, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and add the tubing to it. So let's come down here to the object data properties of the path. And let me move this up a bit and move this up a bit. Here we go. And once again down here, let's put this at 4, let's say. And down here under the bevel, let's put this at 3. And then let's click and drag in the depth field and pull this out. I'm going to hold the Shift key down to move a little bit slower here. So let's say, let's try 0.015 here. Is that too much? That looks like it may be a little bit too much. So how about 0.01? Well, that doesn't look like it's quite enough. All right, how about 0.0125? Let's try that. Yeah, I think that's pretty good for now. Let's do that. And the next thing let's do is work on these handles. So I'm going to kind of zoom in here and zoom in here so we can see these. And instead of trying to do it at an angle like this, I think I want to do it aligned to the global axes. So for this NURBS path, let's hit F2 and call this handlebars, so we know what that is. And then I will just come through and hide all of this. And then let's just begin with a cylinder and see what we can do. Maybe I'll take this cylinder down to, say, 16 sides. I'll turn it in the x-axis, RX90. Maybe let's scale it down a bit. Let's see if we can get something that looks kind of like this. I'm going to press SY and move it out a bit. And then I think I will tab into edit mode. And let's press Control R and I'll scroll the mouse wheel so we get two edges. And then I'll scale in the Y with S and Y. Let's move these out a bit. And then we may be able to extrude these out a bit. So let me just select this one and move it back. And then I'll press Alt-click between two of the faces here and Alt-Shift-click between two of the faces there. And then let's extrude these out. I'm going to press E. And then once again, I'm going to scale in the X and the Z, but not the Y. So I'll press S, Shift Y, and now we only scale out in the X and the Z. There we go. Now we could probably do something with this here. What I'll do is I'll just inset this with the I key. There we go. And then I'll pull that out some. We can do that again with the I key. Just press I and bring that in like that. Maybe pull that out a bit. I'm just doing this part down here. And then let's extrude this in. I'll hit E, push that in for that hole at the end. And I think it kind of bulges out a bit in the center. So let's just insert an edge loop there with Control R and pull this out a bit. We could do that again over here if we wanted. And over here. There we go. So we've got that kind of bulging out there. Now let's do this metal part here. I think we just need to maybe scale in just a bit here. And then I'll just extrude. I'll hit E and pull out a bit. Scale in just a bit like this. And then there's just a little bit of an edge there. So let's once again just hit the I key to inset. Pull that in and go like that. Let's try that. Now let's add our subdivision surface modifier and see how it looks. I will tab back to object mode and then smooth it. And then let's add an edge loop here to kind of tighten this up. Add an edge loop here to kind of tighten that up. And maybe also back here, let's do that. And up here, there we go. I think we're going to need to change the finish of this because this multi-sided face here, the N-gon, doesn't really work well with the subdivision surface modifier. You really need only 4 sides or maybe 3, but not 16. Also, if you can't see this area down here, all the information about the polygons and the edges, you can come down here and right-click and turn on scene statistics. And you have some other things here too that you can turn on. But I'll go ahead and delete this face here. And then I'll just select these edges and hit E and S and scale that in just a bit like that. I'll maybe add an edge right in here. And we'll work on these indentations at a later time, but I just wanted to get this kind of cleaned up here. Let's add an edge right in here. Let's add an edge in here. And let's redo the face inside here. So let's just delete that, delete faces. select this edge, and let's hit ES and scale in a bit. And then ES and scale in a little more. ES one more time, and then I'll just merge these at the center by here in edit mode, pressing the M key and merge at the center. And there we go. All right, we've got the basics of our handle here. I feel like this end needs to be a little bit longer, so let's just hit the 3 key, go to wireframe, and I just want to grab this area here, maybe this area, and pull this out just a bit. Something like that. All right, let's put it on our handlebar. I will select this edge here and move the cursor to it with Shift S2. And then I'll move the origin to that point. Object, set origin, origin to 3D cursor. Now let's bring everything back here in the outliner, and then let's put it in place. Now it needs to scale down quite a bit. Let's go to the top view, hit the G key, move it kind of into place here. Maybe I'll turn it a bit. I'll go to the side view with the 3 key. Let's move it up. Hit the period key to zoom in. Let's tilt it down a bit. Bring it up a hair, go back to the top view. Hit the G key, move this around until we think we're in a place where we kind of like it. All right, looking pretty good. I feel like it's a little big. Let's now scale it down some. And you can see since I moved that origin, I can scale from that point. All right, so now let's take that pivot point, that origin, and let's move the cursor to the center of the grid, Shift S1, move that origin to the 3D cursor. And now if we apply our rotation, Control A, and apply the rotation, we can add a mirror modifier, and there it is. All right, we've got our handlebars blocked in. Maybe in the next video, we'll continue working on this area up in the front.